Right, good morning, everyone. Lovely to be here, and thank you all for having me here. It is an honour to be back here after, well, 15 years and doing a talk on stage, because I was back in Staffs a while ago. So, just as I'm sure everyone in UK, the world loves doing, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, which I genuinely just hate doing. But that being said, I started off at the University of Staffordshire, and fun fact is I actually failed my first year here, and then I met a great guy called Kenny Wildman, who was good, another student at the time, told me to actually try hard, it's going to matter later on. Now, you're obviously all going through that kind of same thing. I decided to buckle down with some hard work with some friends and came out with a pretty good degree out the end of it, which is really nice. I then made my first step into games after about 50-odd applications into Rocksteady, working on Batman Arkham Knight as a QA. So that was a really exciting way to see the kind of quality that's required in the games industry, that's required for a AAA title. Then after delivering that, I moved over to Rare to work on Sea of Thieves. So I joined right at the concept stage as a QA, quickly moved in production. And there I learned everything from process, concepting, all the way through to delivering of a AAA product and a live service. It was a very exciting, busy, difficult time, challenging road, but I learned a huge amount there. I then moved over to Jagex, which unfortunately I can't talk much about as I'm still under NDA, but was a producer there. And then moved over to Flix Interactive, where I'm now head of production. I've been there for about 5 years, supported on a range of titles, everything from Sniper Elite to things like Manor and Mafia recently. We've got a bunch of games we can't talk about, but right now I think we're on 9 different co-dev projects, which is very exciting. And I basically oversee the production team and the studio on delivering across all those different projects. So I wanted to just give you a little bit about my journey so you understand how I've built what's next in my advice. So it's just coming from a place of understanding of where the industry is at. So, just a really quick thing about Flix Interactive. So, we were formed back in 2011. It was actually a group of modders kind of in 2009 that were trying to do their own thing, trying to get into games as well. It was a hard time back in 2009, so they decided to form their own group, and that's with Flix Interactive, and it's built out into the kind of AAA powerhouse it is today with just over 130, 140 staff members. So, getting into it, what I want to talk about today is the mindset more than anything else. There's going to be a lot of amazing people here that have different mindsets built, have different opinions on creativity, on what it takes to make great games. But really, a really key, important part of where we're at with an industry right now is the understanding of the mindset you have to be a games developer. It's a very different industry that was five years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And I want to talk a little bit about what kind of is expected of people coming into the industry, such as yourself and people already in the industry. So, the power of being bold. So the first thing I want to go over here is bold doesn't mean reckless, it means brave. Like, without sounding too cheesy, we need people to come in and try new ideas. Like, there's millions of games out there now on Steam and everything else. That's not the business model that works anymore, and we need people to come in with new ideas, believe in those ideas, try new things, look to go and make a big difference. If you look at comparative industries such as film and music, there are other entertainment industries, obviously they were flooded, and they are flooded for a long time. So it's big, bold, brave new ideas that move the industry forward. And the industry does reward creative risk takers. That is something, I've gone too far, sorry, but the industry does reward creative risk takers. That is something that is in absolute requirement right now to move us forward. We've got a lot of great people that are able to implement and make great games, but we need more and more people who take creative risks, who understand not just what makes a great game, but what doesn't exist out there, how we can go and make things better, how we can push things a little bit further. And I want to talk about here the bold studios that also right now are thriving, not just surviving. So many of them listed here are independent studios that I'm targeting specifically. So I think there's a thing that's going forward and back on without me asking it to. Sorry, there are many great studios here that already do this. These are the independent ones, and don't get me wrong, there is many, many more in UK and across Europe and all over that are great at making games. But one thing that independent studios have to deal with is obviously building from the ground up. They're making their own product with their own ideas, and I want to encourage more people to do that. That's where I see a lot of where the games industry is heading, is being built that way. We've got a lot of, like I said, brilliant studios, but people coming up with fresh ideas to not just survive, but to push it a little bit further. And it does start small. Like, It starts with small actions and small companies. So things like speaking up, raising your ideas. It sounds too easy and too cheesy, but we need people to share their ideas, have fun conversations about games again, come up with crazy and absolutely ridiculous plans that sound bizarre, but they're the ones that result in really good ideas. We have a great artist internally, Dan Nilsson, who he does the rule of 3+1, that when he's trying to create a UI, for example, he creates 3 different types, and then his +1 is something that is completely bizarre, that no one would ever think of, that no one would ever want. And 9 times out of 10, I really want that one. So using that rule, same thing internally, and same thing for you. And then bravery with humility. This is the other thing as well, is be confident in your vision, but not arrogant. Again, it sounds simple, but it's something that I want people to understand. It's really important that you're focusing on being humble and open to feedback, but sharing and pushing for your own ideas and sticking with them if you genuinely believe they're great. So the path is not easy. I think there is emotion on this, I'm so sorry. But the path is not easy. Many want to make games, not many know how to make them. This is something that I want everyone to also have a deep understanding of, that use advice from others, but also, and learn from people with experience, but also come up with your own ideas again. Come up with your own processes, look at new tooling, look at new sets of, look at making your own tooling, whatever that would be, but don't just rely on what already exists out there. Try and build out something new, because what exists now is very difficult to continue to deliver on, and especially at the cost of what it is. So when you're trying to make something new, look at like rapid prototyping, like really heavily into existing, utilizing existing assets. You've got free hundreds of thousands of assets on stores that you can just download and use, build out those ideas, and then rapidly iterate and build out an idea and a product before you even think about taking it further into any form of production. Share those ideas with industry people, and I'll go a bit more into that. But basically, the standard skills aren't enough, right? If you know Unity, you know Unreal, they're kind of like the baseline of what you need, but dive deeper into specific areas. Those are the things that are going to get you hired. Those are the things that people are going to look for, and those are what's going to bring up the industry. And breaking in has always been tough, right? That's something we all understand, but persistence is what gets you there as well. The same thing, going back to it, but with great ideas, is when you start that, it's really exciting, it's fresh and it's new, but being persistent with it, pushing through it. You look at anything like a AAA game takes anywhere from 5 to 8 years to build. AA can take anywhere from 2 to 5 years. They're long periods of time you have to push forward, and that's really critically important, that you have to stick with that idea and move forward in a really strong and persistent way. And you're going to face lots of people challenging your ideas along the way as well, and that's not going to be easy. So you need to be able to stick to it, reinforce it, not just blindly, do the research and convince people along the way of what you're doing. And the growth comes from challenge, right? Feedback's tough. I give a lot of feedback, and I work with a lot of students in my own time, and I'm very blunt with students I don't think are hitting quality, obviously with my own team as well at Flix Interactive. But that's part where you need to be able to pick yourself up and go, right, how can I do this better? And even if you disagree with the feedback, try and understand where the feedback's coming from, because that's another part where it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's the same thing as doing exercise or anything else. It's painful at first, but it gets easier and it gets better. But understanding that, and that's going to be a part of your journey forever in your career, is you're always going to get critical feedback, and that's what you need to really focus on and be able to deal with. And finally, this is the toughest market since 2009 in games, like bluntly saying it here. It's a very difficult time right now because it's flooded, right? Because we have a flooded market, and what we need to do is change the way that we're approaching things. And we've got teams that are already doing that. We've got teams that are coming out of uni, like Flix Interactive was, right, back in 2009, there was 2 years where the devs at the time couldn't get jobs. They were working as well. The CEO was a drum teacher, CTO was in IT, just to make sure they pay the bills, but they wanted to really do their own things. They made mods, then they started making their own game, they formed their own studio. That kind of stealth-starting attitude is what's really going to bring up this industry and move a lot of the old ways out of the way and look at the new, exciting ways of making really fun games. We've already got students fresh out of uni that are doing this. We've got the Pushy Plushy team is one I've been chatting to quite a lot, but they've came from the University of Staffordshire, probably maybe even some in this room in second and third years. But in 8 weeks, they built a polished game that is really close to releasable. A couple of networking issues is the only thing holding them back right now. And it's a really exciting time for those teams because they've opened the door of opportunities. They've been winning awards. They've been invited to different shows. And everyone has that opportunity to spend, even if it's 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, to dedicate all of that time and build a product really quickly in your own time that you can do on any computer. You can do half of them on mobile phones and tablets these days. And it's like, to be able to build that idea out, it's already opened opportunity for them and everyone else that can do that. There's another one I would like people to Google another time called Resonance. So they're purely an art team, but I'll talk a little bit about it in a bit. But they are purely art. I think they have one tech artist. They're over in France, right? But the point is they've built out a product which looks AAA. They've built it out with gameplay, with only artists, because they've gone and said, I've not got limits, I've not got boundaries, I'm just going to learn what I need to learn. And they did it over the course of, I think it was 8 months, that they built this demo out. That's on itch, you can go and download it. But it's amazing to show what you can do with that amount of time, and to just as students, So, work ethic. Again, it's really cheesy, but this is something, if we're talking about hireable, and not just hireable, about staying hired, about being employed and growing, it's one thing I want to reinforce to everyone here is you have opportunities in front of you every single day. And when you're in those, especially if you're remote right now, you've got to act like you're sitting in the room beside everyone else, because we've seen companies close and it's scary, and we've seen projects close and it's scary, and lots of the time you can look into it and a huge amount of it is just down to lack of communication, people seeing a problem and not raising it, or people raising lots and lots of problems without solutions. And this is what leads to the downfalls of products. And there was a product early in the year that I won't call out for their own protection, but that all of you probably will know, AAA game that came out after lots of years of development. They had lack of communication internal, and they had other issues as well, I'm sure, but from the people I've talked to that have developed there, they lacked the ability to talk to each other and give feedback directly, but then they also lacked the ability to receive that feedback and do something correctly with it. And it resulted in 500 jobs lost, which is scary, right? So the simplest thing of just opening up a chat box, jumping in Discord, Teams, whatever you use, and chatting to people will make you not just employable, but will make you really retainable. So take ownership as well. That's a big part of what I want to talk about. When we're all in work or out of work and we're building a product, even if it's your mates all together, you will hit problems and you will already have a high capacity workload. But the ability to take on something that no one else is taking right now, is something that's really powerful. Something that, again, you're working as a team to solve a problem. If you can pick those things up really proactively, that's going to make it a really powerful position for you in games. Professionalism builds reputation. I've got a colleague that I work with, I'll call him out specifically, Andy Buck, but he's, I think, 4 years now in industry as a producer. But he's the calmest person that's able to speak professionally, but also makes a joke, have a smile on his face. But having that attitude means that he has people that have 20 years more experience than him in our company that will follow him and listen to him because he's calm, collected, he understands the problems, he understands that we can fix problems. And having that attitude when things go wrong, to be able to stay calm, try and solve the problem as a team, work as a team, that is another point that not only will make you extremely hireable, but will also make it something that people want to be able to keep in their companies. And commitment matters, but make sure it's sustainable. This is a big controversial point for a lot of people right now, where there is a pendulum where people talk about crunch, like that's a big thing in the industry, or has been in the past anyway, and crunch is one side of it where bad planning or whatever else leads to working weekends, working evenings, and doing that consistently over a long period of time. Now, there is overtime as well, and that's very different. Like when I was at University of Stafford, I worked at Domino's Pizza to pay the bills, basically. And at 5 p.m., if I was stuck in traffic, I wouldn't just throw the pizza out the door and just drive home and go, right, my shift's over. I'd deliver that pizza, and then I would, go back and sign off and everything else for the day. And people will do that for, jobs like Domino's, so we should do the same thing for games. And I'm not saying we work overtime all the time. That's definitely not what I'm talking about. I'm saying if you're halfway through getting a submit done and it hits 5 o'clock and you need 30 more minutes or an hour, work that time, inform your producers, work with this work ethic, and then I guarantee if you work at Flix, for example, and I'm sure every other studio does this, we'll sit there and go, cool, leave early on Friday. You know, you've worked that hour, get that hour back. That's the way that we should work, but it's about completing the product, not just about hitting this like time-sensitive matter, because there will be an ebb and flow to everything we do. And that's another thing that's needed, and it's not just games. Again, you look at, I mean, it's a bizarre spectrum. You look at film, but you got Robert Downey Jr., who's paid hundreds of millions, and if he works 3 straight days, he'll get celebrated, and it's a very odd thing, right? But the point is, what we try and do is we need to have a form of commitment to what we're doing as a team, as a group, because everyone wins from that. But what we don't want is an immediate rejection of it. Now, if anyone ever asks you to crunch, that's completely negative and should not be even listened to or catered for. If someone goes, I need your help, then it's something you should consider. And it's absolutely fine to say no, but it's something to consider, because that puts you in a position where you can make a big impact to 100 people at a studio by working 1 extra hour and getting that time back. And I can't is the fastest way to stop growing. This is one of the biggest challenges that humans have, right? But the I can't attitude closes the door to opportunities for everyone, and that's for you, for your teammates, for everything else. You know, for a big point of contender that's always a big point of discussion is when I ask a tech artist to do VFX. Is a great example of this. They go, well, they're tech artists, not VFX artists. And I go, but if they can create something even halfway there, we can get halfway there and we've got something. Like, there was a project recently. I'm a producer. I don't often get into engine. They needed a basic composition put together, an audio composition put together. It was needed Thursday, so on Wednesday morning, I broke out basically all the composition tools that I could, went onto free, royalty-free websites, pulled down audio, edited together a mix, and put it in for that product, and it was a success. And I'm not an audio person. Now, don't get me wrong, an audio person can do that much better than I could, but there was no one available. Everyone else was very busy. But I stepped across and did that work, and now we've won that product and brought more funding into the company, and that's great. We can look at things like pay rises, bringing in new staff, everything else, right? That opens up doors. So no matter what your role is, don't say, I can't, unless you literally go, right, well, I've got 400 tasks on there, all priority 1. I've already got 80 hours scheduled in my week. I don't want to work overtime. Cool, don't take it, that's fine. But if you've got that capacity, you're working on the less important tasks, consider saying, I can, or I'll try. So I want to talk a little bit about this, the trust and skill spectrum. So I've stolen this from a man who everyone in the studio knows I'm basically deeply in love with, called Simon Sinek. He's a leadership coach. But it does line up very closely for what we need in the industry. So basically, if you have low skill and low trust, basically low trust going, I can't depend on you, I don't know if you're going to deliver, you know, you maybe not, you don't show up on time, that's something I can't do anything with. If you're low skill, unwilling to learn, that's unhireable. There won't be any spectrum where any of those people will be hired. If we look at what I class as the risky specialist, so this is short-term problem solvers, it's people with high skills but low trust. It's not ideal, but if I have a short-term problem to solve, we go, cool, let's work together over a brief period of time to get this problem solved. But I know that if I kind of leave you alone, you might go off and do your own thing. If I ask you to deliver a feature, you'll deliver a different feature because you don't like it. That's not going to be useful, and it's not something that will be sustainable. So it might get you a job, but it won't keep you in that job. We then have the trusted learner, which is hireable if we have capacity to train. So these are people with high amount of trust. They show up on time, try really hard, really want to learn. It's a very powerful position to be in, but if games is in a difficult place right now, that's a very expensive employee. We pay your salary and then others to train you. So this can, I mentioned many people in the room here probably feel they might fall into this category because you're fresh out of uni, everything else, but I want to basically talk to you today saying you're not in this category if you don't want to be. Like moving over to dependable expert, if it moves. So we have, I'll call out a few people specifically, but we have Ben Rigby, Eliza, we have Stephen Lewis, and many others in the studio that are all people that came in as dependable experts, but they're all fresh out of uni. So about some of them 2 years experience, some have 3, but they came in and they're able to take on any challenge. They're able to, well, actually, I'll give a better example. I've got Chris Lomax, for example. He came in as a level designer, about a year and a half ago, and so far he's done level design, he's done character design, he's done combat design, he's moved and done a little bit of engineering, a little bit of tech design, right, a little bit of art, he's done white boxing, he's done all sorts, right, and he came in with just the, I want to be able to try and help attitude, and every time there was a task, he just steps up, learns the system, even books in, we have personal development days where people can try and learn how to improve, to learn that system and then develop it into a AAA product. So everyone can be that, it's just a mindset change, that's all it is. So like it says, this is, we care more about trust than performance, so it's something you should work on primarily first over skill, but skill is obviously still very important. But it's a quote from Navy SEALs that Simon Sinek uses, saying, I'd rather have someone who is a mid-level performer who I can trust rather than a high performer that I can't trust. So, let's check time, sorry. Cool, so staying humble. So yeah, leaving on a point of understanding that this is something we all need to do as well. Like some of us have a lot of experience in the industry. I mean, I've just over 15 years-ish now, and there are many times that I've done some amazing stuff, and there are many times I've done very bad stuff, right? And there's a quote from the creative director at Rare, which is, you're only as good as your last game, which is very true, and that's the way we should always treat ourselves. It doesn't matter how many games we've shipped, we're only as good as what we last do. So we need to be able to stay humble and stay learning. So the best people are always learning. Doesn't matter if you're CEO, doesn't matter if you're junior. You always have to keep an open mind because there's going to be someone that comes in with new ideas. And we're a very junior industry still compared to everyone else, every other creative industry. Games are still junior, so we can still make a big difference and a big change on how things are made. So stay curious, keep asking questions, and never assume that you've made it. You're only as good as your last game. And then success is shared. Lots of teams are we believe are built around islands of people that think they're brilliant and other people think they're brilliant, but there is always a team behind them. And that was a product I worked on recently, not at Flix, I won't say where, but I worked really hard with a group of about 10 people getting the product over the line, and there's about 200 people on staff. But the 10 people that worked kind of really hard, worked overtime, got the products out successfully, weren't really recognized because they weren't the face. They were behind the scenes making it work. We were there like drinking Monster at 1 in the morning, getting it over the line. It's not the way it should have been. But the point is, it should have been shared as a team, and I should have pushed as well, individually, to say this was a team effort, everyone together. It wasn't 1 or 2 individuals that really made it work. It was everyone pulling together to make it work. And then I've already gone over it a little bit, but receiving feedback is a gift. It's going to be hard. You're going to receive critique, and it's try to meet it without defensiveness. There's going to be some pretty hard points where people are going to say, your work's simply not good enough. You'll do an interview, and they'll say, I had an interview once where they were just like, no, you're terrible, we're not going to hire you. I mean, it was a 7-minute interview, and it was impactful at the time, and it just wasn't a good fit, and I learned from it and became better. I'm an arrogant arse now, but I used to be a hell of a lot worse. But I've had people that critique me, wonderful people like Georgie, who's now laughing at me in the corner, who works with me at Flix and tells me off whenever I'm going too far around the wrong way. But being able to receive that, learn from it, and grow from it is really powerful, and we all need to do that. And then giving feedback is a responsibility as well. Whenever you see friends, colleagues, whatever it is, and they're delivering work that you don't think is up to standard, tell them, because they will learn and grow from it. They may not like it at first, but they'll appreciate it down the line. And that's a really powerful skill as well. And it's the same thing that when you go into interviews and everything else, ask for feedback afterwards, they don't give it. And if you feel confident enough, it's really powerful to tell the interviewers feedback on ways they could improve as well. And that makes you look really good. But confidence without ego, like with everything I've said together, you need to be able to stay confident and humble, and that's what's going to move you forward, and everyone's going to remember you for. Remember you in a good way for. Not many people are remembered for being egotistical with confidence. There are, but it's more of a running joke. But the people that remain confident and that stay grounded and stay learning are the ones that, in the industry, which is very small, that everyone will kind of look back and know who you are, they will remember you for those moments where you were able to keep calm and confident. So with the final point, we'll go into actually getting into games to provide some actual kind of clear advice. So build something, especially if you graduated or have recently graduated, don't stop building. If we hear or you go for an interview and goes, well, for the last 2.5 months, I've had a wonderful summer holiday and a big break, it's not going to do you any favors. Like, I wish I could have had a summer holiday, but I haven't had one in 15 years now. You know, I do have normal holiday, to be clear, but not a 6-week break between my semesters. So this is something that you need to keep building and keep growing what you're doing. Actually, fresh out of uni, I went and got a job at a place called Anson Packaging and made packaging for chocolate bars while I was interviewing, while I was trying to look for a job, and I kept building what I was doing. Dave's telling me to wrap up. We started late, Dave. So show your process, not just the result. Artists are getting brilliant at this in your portfolios. Part of what you need to be able to show is basically the process of getting there, because everyone might get to a good result. Well, at least at Flix, I see many of our staff, all of our staff, get to a great result, but they all get there a different way. And sometimes you will open up a door inadvertently where we go, oh, that process is completely different. I see how it can be easier for a lot of people, and that will get you hired rather than just that end result as well. Networking the right way. So this is something you should do, is keep going to events, keep talking to devs online and not asking for jobs, right? I've got 2 people I'm chatting to right now, 2 students that they have been asking me how they can improve their game. They've been talking to me about how they can start their own companies. They've been talking to me about, you know, what else they can do within the products they've already built to make it even better. And those are the ones I'm now looking for every opportunity I see come up. Because the games industry is small, I see these jobs pop up and I go, oh, you're going to be perfect for that. And I'll put them in for that position, even without asking, because I want them to get the job because they've got the right attitude. So network the right way, not just asking about jobs, and if you've got it, especially not, talk about the products and talk about that. Embrace new tools. I was going to do a little bit of a bigger piece on this, but as sake of time, the industry is evolving fast, right? AI is a big scary thing people keep talking about. My point is, don't openly reject it, don't openly accept it either. It's the same thing with any tool. You've got to understand it and say if it's useful or not. If you sit there and it steals people's work, cool, throw it in the bin. If it's something that can speed up your workflows, that's brilliant. It doesn't replace jobs, that's a bit of a myth, or it's very stupid companies that replace jobs, right? The way I look at it is we've got a great, I won't say who again, but there's a company we work with directly who they used to make basically 1 game a year. They've now gone to making 3 to 5 a year, and they've increased their headcount because they've adapted all this new tooling. And what it's done is it's brought in more revenue, so higher wages. It's brought in more jobs because more people can work faster on more games. So that's opened up opportunity. It's not done what everyone else is talking about. So if you go and learn these things and go and bring them into interviews, that's what's going to get you hired immediately, because there's a lot of people in games who are not learning these things right now, and you have an opportunity in front of you to do so. So stay persistent, keep improving. Know that rejection is normal. I did look quickly, but it was 46. I do remember now, it was 46 rejections I got before I got into Rocksteady, and I made an individual application for about 30 of them. So that's part where you need to understand that you need to work hard on those applications. Rejection hurts, but keep trying. So I'll leave you with the be bold, take creative risks, be inspirational, lift up others around you, and be humble and stay teachable always. And I was going to ask have anyone have questions, but that's not happening. So the part I'll just say is the world doesn't need more games. What it needs is new ideas, your courage, your voice. So go make something extraordinary. Thank you, everyone.